session here is developing and negotiating research, site budgets, and contracts, and this really is going to be from the site perspective. We find that, or I find that the majority of the people who attend this session are really from CROs and sponsors side, and I think it's great for them to attend because they can then see some of the tips that we give in terms of suggesting to sites, how to manage their budgets, and you can kind of see what goes into it from a site perspective. So as you've already said, long and crazy negotiations. Budgeting and contracting, again, remains the top cause of study delays. So the reference is below, and unfortunately I have not seen anything updated. I think this came from 2011, and everything else pretty much still says that it's number one to recruitment are the two big delays. In terms of the phases, it oftentimes takes 42% longer than expected in phase 1, 31% longer in phase 2, and 30% beyond the planned deadlines. And I'm sure that you've experienced, such as I have, where many times a project is over and we still haven't reached agreement with some of the sites, and most of those sites are really the academic institutions. This is an estimated per patient cost average for studies. In 2004, they were really not distinguishing phase 3A and B yet. So for patient cost, and there is certainly a huge difference in terms of the therapeutic area that that one works in. So I've worked in oncology mostly for the last few years, currently working on an ophthalmology study, and big difference in terms of contracts there. Worked in the allergy and asthma field back in what I would call the heyday, which would be the 1980s, and then of course managed care came in around probably in the 90s, and so there we saw a little bit of a change there. So in terms of learning objectives, it is to prepare for negotiations, take a look at what startup basic contract content is, and some of the language that's involved, study presentations, and then looking at protocol feasibility and resource needs. In terms of references, you have 10 references, and this is just printed out for you to show you that number 6 and number 9 were deliberately taken out of the handouts because we discovered that they were no longer appropriate for the session or current. So as an activity, we all negotiate nearly every day. There are some examples here that can be, as examples. And so I've actually experienced the first one as a manager, in which I did in the very old days, had a CRA who had 2 sites in Hawaii, and so what he would do is he would bridge. One week he'd be at a site and then stay the weekend. Next week he would schedule, the visit on Monday, Tuesday of the following week. And so we had gone ahead and approved that. That was part of the negotiation. And then, of course, electronic case report forms came in, and that meant that visits were less often. So his spouse was very unhappy, at the change because he was going to Hawaii less often. And then many times, of course, just as a reminder, or as most of us know, we do lots of negotiations also in our off-business life. So at home, many times there are agreements as to, kind of like times coming home, or who's going to do what, or what movie to watch. So negotiation is the process of 2 parties, individuals reaching agreement and actively participating in making decisions.